BG on Game Day back again for another week. Round 23 review, round 24 preview. Joshy King with us as always. We've got the bogan in the background. King, how are you?
Hey, brother, mate. Absolutely fantastic. Ready for another week of BG on Game Day. Ready for NRL Supercoach to finally wrap up, mate. 2 weeks to go. Last week, mate, solid enough, 1270. I think I went up about 300 spots, just about to creep back into sort of, maybe the top sort of 2,000 soon. But, 2 weeks to go, mate. Looks like I'm going to pull up short of the top 1,000 this year. But I still haven't even got my key ring from last year, mate. They said they sent them out weeks ago, and I've got nothing. So I'm pissed off about that. But anyway, I was hoping I'd get to open it on the show here, but, hasn't arrived.
Oh, first world problems, mate. It'll come. It'll get to you eventually. I think,
mate.
It's a good
mate,
problem.
When you're an underachiever like me in life, you got to look at the positives.
Don't worry.
This was, what's
the
that?
one that I got from 3 or 4 years ago, it came with like something to say congratulations in the making the top 1,000, and the keyring came in a packet. I still don't think I've opened it. I've got it somewhere sitting in a frame because I put it up at work just to take the piss, but it's just quietly, apart from the kids lately, that's probably up there.
Mate, I don't know what else there is to look back on in life, Plenty of second places. But that's about it. Anyway. Mate, how did you go last week, buddy? Score went all right?
Yeah, good. It was all good all round. Lots of nice updates. Had Teddy's captain. That was probably the sweetener. A lot of people missing Munster. A few of those Melbourne boys didn't fly, which, I think we talked it up last week. He was the guy I was most scared of, but ended up being a bit of a nice one for me. He won all my head-to-heads, so I haven't really focused much on the overall because I haven't been going great, but somehow, with a bit of luck, I'm still going all my head-to-heads and I wanted to be in, so that's good. And, it's just 2 weeks to go, bud, so just trying to lock it down, finish off solid year. If I finish top 5K, I'll take it. I think I've just snuck in there now.
Mate, I'm going to look at it during the week, and I think the weekend is sort of going to make me do that. I just want to look back at the set and forget of Teddy, and I'm actually going to go back through my captains and see sort of who I did captain, because obviously, I was one of those guys who went Munster last week and cost me some points. Still managed to score 1270. I copped an AE with Latrell. Got Corey Allen for 15 points, and missed out on Teddy as captain. So, I mean, plenty of those woulda, coulda, shoulda rounds, mate. You know how they go. But, I just want to go and see, obviously, the captain choices that I started to move around, whether taking Teddy from the start of the year would have outscored that. And then what I'll do is next year I'll commit to that again, and then after about 5 or 6 rounds, I'll stop doing it again.
Yeah, sounds good. That's vintage King, I reckon.
Mate, me and Kane, we're already talking about next year. We're going through lists of who we're going to get in. Mate, I'm looking forward to 2020.
Well, I told him,
wait.
Let's just finish this train wreck off and we'll worry about that next year. He sent me a message about the same thing, and I said, just leave me alone, mate. Come on.
Mate, anyone out there obviously who watches these videos week in, week out, let's start getting lists together next year. We should do it like the PJ Tour where it's a wraparound season. So, forget these weeks off. Forget this off-season bullshit. Let's just NRL Supercoach 24/7, 365. Let's do it. Get a petition out there. Let's do something. But, mate, in all seriousness, I'll be glad when the footy season's over. I don't really want to watch the cricket. We can't even win that when we've got the team 9 with 80 to go or whatever it is. Fuck. So, mate.
I'll be honest, though, I think the season's gone pretty quick. I don't know if it's busy.
Yeah.
But, the Knights losing hasn't helped of late, but I feel like it's gone quick. I can't believe we're at this time of the year already, and straight into the EPL, mate. We'll get into that and switch off from the footy for a while. But should be a good final series coming up. Looking forward to seeing who might take it out. But the Chooks in Melbourne looking pretty formidable. But Eagles could cause a bit of a rough run there, and the Raiders are there. Cronulla are there. We'll see. It's going to be interesting.
Mate, we're home. We've got it. Heard it here first. But, mates, last week's games, let's get into the rundown for last week's games. Thursday night football, and the doggies, mate, they just keep going. For Supercoaches, plenty of guys, excluding myself, would have been happy that Manu Mao continued his massive run. 109 points after the final updates there. But, yeah, the doggies getting the biscuits 12-6 over the Eels.
Yeah, big one at Bankwest as well. I thought, Parramatta there generally play pretty good at Bankwest. And, this one I think we talked about last week. Do you play guys like Gutho? I ended up playing him thinking, I had a look, they're playing at Bankwest, and I thought, surely there were a bit more to play for than the Dogs. They're vying for a top 4 spot, but it wasn't to be. Again, the Dogs just grounded out. Josh Jackson had a blinder. Obviously, it's pretty reflected in the points there, but he led for them pretty well there. A couple of sin bins in that one. Hopper was obviously good. I think a bulk of those points come towards the back end of the game. And yeah, Mao still seems to be a bit of a pod across a few teams, which is quite interesting, and hurting those guys like yourself that don't have him, unfortunately for you blokes. So
Mate,
crazy game.
Want to give a quick shout out there. Wanga Blake, obviously he switched to Parramatta mid-season from Penrith. I brought Wanga in. I've had him in both my drafts since the start of the year. I brought him in to Classic, I think, in round 6 or 7, thinking that he'd just start to go. I think he'd bottomed out to about 350,000, and I thought for a guy of his talents, that was as low as he'd get. I think he went the next 6 weeks, averaged about 35. He had an injury where he was out for about 8 or 10 weeks, and that was when he switched to Parramatta. What we've seen the last sort of 2 to 3 weeks from him is what I thought he'd do all season. So maybe, obviously, we talk about 2020 and those changes. Points, obviously, and prices will be based off the average for this year. For next year, he could be a sneaky pod to start 2020.
Yeah, I think at the moment what's nice about him, he's out on that right edge with Moses and Mao. It'll be interesting to see that right edge. Obviously Manu Mao will be moving on next season. So whether they still have that potency out there, but obviously with Moses out there, I think he's going to get a lot of good ball. And he looks really good. Obviously on Friday and last week he was looking really good as well. So, yeah, I think he got a bit stiff there because he stitched you up, in that middle part of the season, bud.
Mate, look, yeah. It's just those little punts you take throughout the season, isn't it? You need sort of some pods here or there. And, similar thing with 6 weeks ago selecting David Nofaluma. Finally, it paid off for me over the weekend. But, up until then, really hadn't got the sort of reward that I was after. But first game on the Friday night, mate, and Cowboys getting over the Penrith Panthers. Tamalolo. Would he play? Should he have played? 103 points. Wow. How could you not play him?
Yeah, it was quite interesting. I was erring on the side of possibly not playing him, and because I was pretty focused on my head-to-heads. A couple of the ones I wanted to win, the guys had him, so I couldn't leave him out, and how fortuitous that ended up being because he's gone postal. And yeah, massive. Again, I just would have thought Penrith was so much more to play for. They were sort of vying for a top 8 spot. Big game for them. I know they had to go up there and all that, but Penrith's been what a letdown of a year for them, amongst other things. But
mate, their season this year, Penrith, they've just been much more rocks than diamonds. I think there's probably been 3 games that they've played good all season, but yeah, definitely a season to forget for them. And obviously, the big thing in the off season was Ivan Cleary coming back. I don't know what he does there, and he'll obviously get another season or 2. But if they don't improve next year, well, could be the removal of the Cleary father and son combination. Second game on the Friday night, and look, this was an absolute cracker. Considering all the talk that was around pre-game over the week leading into it, with coaches attacking each other. Some assistant coach I've never fucking heard of, some Demetriou bloke. I thought he was the AFL guy who ran the AFL, but that was years ago, apparently. I don't know. Anyway, mate, the Bunnies getting up 22-20 over the Broncos up here at Suncorp. David Fafita, massive, absolutely massive. He was a big reason I scored over 1,000 this week in draft. Unfortunately, I got knocked out last week, so I didn't mean shit. But mate, absolute huge player, this young fella. The Broncos, we've said it plenty of times, and everyone sort of knows it. They do have the best young forward pack in the game. It's just a matter of week in, week out that these guys can perform. So managed to score a double. For the Bunnies, I think Damien Cook top scored 106 odd there. So very much a return to form for his owners.
Yeah, and it was Brisbane gave him a real sniff at the end there. There was a couple great try saver from Cookie on Oates there, and there was another one out on the other side as well. So yeah, Brisbane very much could have won this one. Obviously, yeah, Fafita, just crazy to think he's only 18, 19 years old, as good as Payne Haas is, and they've got TPG out there, like TPJ rather. Crazy to think they got this for Fafita as well. A lot of talk at the moment around whether they're going to be actually able to retain him. Depending on what you believe and what you read, they might be in danger of losing him. But if they can somehow hold on to that little nucleus of Haas, Fafita, and TPJ, it's pretty scary to think. What else they might be able to achieve.
Look, I've probably when I brought in Nofaluma, I brought in Matt Lodge. I think maybe a week or two before. I think he's probably the consistency that holds these guys together. Week in, week out. Look, you do see obviously Payne Haas play great. Fafita, every 3 or 4 games you'll throw in one like that. But it seems week in, week out, Lodge is just that. You call him a grub, but I know the off-field stuff over in the States was absolutely shocking. But on the football field, I don't mind him. I think he's just a tough footballer. So yeah.
Yeah, he's the unsung hero, I guess. I guess I just isolate those 3 because they're a bit younger, but. Yeah, Lodge has been in every right, one of the best front rows in the comp. I don't think he'd be out of place in a sky blue jersey either. So,
yeah, true. First game on the Saturday, and my boys Cronulla gave the Warriors a bit of a toweling, 42-16. Joshy Dugan, mate, you called him out as a pod a few weeks back, 104 there. I think he might have scored 1 or 2 tries. Ronaldo Mulatalo, absolute cracker of a mouthful there. Apparently he's got a brother as well, twin brother Lorenzo, who plays for the Sharks. He just re-signed. So both of them wingers. We could see them, obviously, with Sasai Feki leaving the club. It might be the Mulatalo show next year. But they went all right. Jazz Tavanga continues to play awesome for the Warriors. Week in, week out, he just puts in so much effort. And RTS gave his owners a little bit of a boost, considering Turbo score in the last game of the round. Mate, the Sharkies, we're coming strong, mate. We're coming.
Yeah, building nicely. I'm still wondering, is Dugan your best fullback or is Moylan? Obviously, Dugan played fullback there on the weekend. Obviously, he's had a pretty good game there. But what are your thoughts on that one? Moylan named in the 21 this week. Is the Sharky squad better with him at fullback and Dugan in the centres? Or, are they better off having Dugan at the back?
I think we're better off with Moylan at the back. Dugan in the centres. The hard one for me is not those 2 guys. The hard one for me is whether the other centre is Bronson Xerri or Josh Morris. I think Josh Morris is in career best form. I know that's weird to say because obviously him and Brett are, 30, 32, 33 years old now, but mate, Josh Morris, his tackle busts and line breaks have been as good this season as I've ever seen. So, mate, it's a good headache to have, I guess. But the hard part is when you've got guys who are as injury prone as Dugan and Moylan, is just that consistency with the team play. You want to have your same 17 on the park coming up to this time of the year because you want to have that consistency in the gameplay. And yeah, that's the hardest part. I think all the combinations work. I guess the way to look at it is you'd have Dugan in the centres, but you wouldn't have Moylan in the centres. So that's the easiest answer.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he covers that utility if Moylan does go down or something, or someone else goes down. You got Capewell coming off the bench now as well, which helps.
Yeah,
they'd be able to shift Dugan around. So I think the other one was interesting, mate, on the weekend is Big FIFA. He looks like he's put a bit of a firecracker up himself, and he had a pretty good game on the weekend. From what I know,
he's looking fairly clean cut. I have been noticing on his Instagram over probably the past 3 or 4 months. he's been in one of those tattoo removal studios, and the neck tattoos are starting to disappear. A few of those things. So he is starting to clean it up a little bit. He did look good on the weekend. A little bit hard. Look, I have no doubt, and I've said it before, and I'll keep saying it. I think there are a lot of injuries in the knees that affect what he can do. But it almost plays into his capabilities, because once he sort of starts those stuttering runs and those ins and outs and sideways, it puts his offloads on a lot more. If he was just to hit up like a Shane Webke where you run it forward and whatever, I mean, yeah, you'd make more ground, but you're just going to get tackled. You'd lose that effectiveness of the second phase play. So, yeah, it'd be nice to have both, mate, but I think he's effective the way he plays. And I think I've just got to, us and Cronulla fans have got to learn to accept that, but he looks good. So, yeah. Mate, that was the first of 3 absolute hidings on the Saturday. The second game was your boys, mate.
Holy dooly.
Wow. Yeah. I was hoping Nofaluma would score 6 here. I thought, hang on, I'm in a chance. But David Nofaluma, 123, game high. Benji Marshall had an absolute cracker. Look, I know he's getting older, and the games like this aren't as often as they used to be, but I still think he's the most exciting player to watch in the game. Maybe next to Sean Johnson when Sean Johnson's on, but I just love the step, the pass, the vision. Benji's got it all when it comes to that playmaking ability. I know Teddy and those guys are fantastic, but they finish off the plays. Benji just creates stuff from nothing.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. He's still got it all, and if anything, he's gotten better with age, hasn't he? He's just maybe not doing it as quickly, but he's still making it look pretty good out there, and absolutely put a train through us. I think it was 30-0 at half time. I was absolutely stoked to be sitting at home getting ready for a big game from our boys, getting ready to try and make a charge for the finals, only for it to be 30-0 at half time. And that ended up being, I guess, the capitulation that ended up happening in Brown being announced as effective immediately. He's now no longer the coach, so I don't know what's going on there. I don't know what to think, what to believe, but getting to the point where I'm thinking, what's this sort of shit? Like, I know there might be stuff going on in the background, but these blokes are pretty privileged people to be getting paid, hundreds of thousands of dollars a year to play football, and, they go out and dish something like that. Like, there might be shit going on in the background we don't know about, but like I said, these guys are privileged. If I was, if I had driven up for that game or something, I'd be absolutely filthy. I was already sick enough as it was sitting there on the lounge watching it, and I don't know what's going on in the background. I think about this time last week, it was announced there was a bit of, unrest there with Brownie, and I thought that was quite surprising. And fast forward a week later, he's gone. So, I'm not convinced.
Mate,
our CEO, Phil Gardner, he's a weird character. I've watched a lot of stuff in the last week with him. I don't know how to read into it. There's lots of murmurs going around about various things, and it's just a debacle.
The draft league we're in, the chat. Was that true about Mitchell Pearce? Him leaving at the end of the year as well? Was that that wasn't?
No,
right, I didn't know whether that was a stitch up or not.
Filthy.
I didn't read that.
Killing me, Petey.
Oh, mate, look, I think obviously Nathan Brown. I found it very surprising for him to come out and say he'd finish off the season. It's obviously that the club doesn't have that faith in you if they're going to go ahead and sack you before the end of the year. If I was him, I would have just walked. I would have, told him to shove it, because, I know he probably looked beyond that and maybe did it from an unselfish position. But, the fact is that if they're so quick to let you go, But it's happened this week, obviously, now after that loss. I don't know what's going to happen for the next 2 weeks for your guys, but the season's, basically over, isn't it?
Yeah, it doesn't really matter what happens now the next 2 weekends. I think the Dogs are more of a chance of making the finals than we are, but, pretty disappointing. Supercoach-wise, though, the Tigers just absolutely put a train through us and reflected in the scores. So, let's forget about that one and move on to 2020 for the Knights, eh?
Yeah, mate. Lukey Brooks was huge. Luke Garner, Jesus, Brooks put him through that many holes. Fantastic scorer from the Tigers. And then the final game on the Saturday night, as I said, was another absolute hiding, and that was the Roosters 34-12 over the Dragons. I think the Dragons might have won the second half here, but Tedesco, look, if anyone said that he was a day footballer, he obviously proved that wrong. Went massive, 134 points. He was absolutely everywhere, finished off everything. Daniel Tupou, Victor Radley, players we've talked about before, continued their good form. Who the fuck is Jay Ford?
Mate, he's the next up and comer.
Never heard of him.
He's awesome, mate. I think
what
he
happened to this Josh Kerr bloke?
Well, this kid's, I don't know where he's come from, but he's legit. I've had a look at him today, and, you know, sneaky for those of you still playing maybe draft comps or something like that. He's probably no good classic just because of the time of year, but 64 points in base on the weekend, played 80 minutes.
Right.
Again, I don't know where he's come from. I don't know if he's locked.
Was that his debut?
No, it's his third game, so he's progressively built up. He hadn't played 80 minutes before, but
just goes to show, mate. I don't even look at the Dragons anymore. They're that fucking useless. They're the same as Newcastle, mate.
Yeah, well, fair call. If anything, I'd sort of been saying they've got to be worse.
Well, yeah, that's true. I mean, you look at both squads on paper. There's representative players through both teams. You got young fellas you think are the next up and coming superstars, like your Zach Lomaxes and blokes like that. And I don't know. Neither team can just make it work.
In defence for us, like, you know, it's pretty much, you know, first few seasons a few of these guys. Those Dragons blokes, I mean, I know Hunt and Norman, that's a bit different, but you got guys like McInnes and Frizzell and, you know, Vaughan and, like I said, Hunt and Norman and Widdop and Aitken and Laffey. They're absolutely stacked. Tarek Sims,
it's a stacked
James
team,
Graham, try and find a weak spot. So, you know, as I said,
these are blokes you could probably send them to other clubs and ask anywhere from 500 to 800,000 a season. You would think, you know, based on sort of reputation, but they just haven't put it together as a team.
Yeah, it makes me wonder about how much the DeBellin stuff's actually impacted them, you know, on the inside. If he was a bit of a, you know, leader at that club there, and that obviously has been rolled through into March next year ongoing. So pretty sad to see, but some shining lights in those young fellas there at the moment in Leilua and Ford. But Dragons are nowhere.
Yeah. Sunday footy, mate, and what did we see? Look, this was a weird game to watch. I watched the first half. I didn't actually catch the second half. Obviously, Cam Munster having him as captain, I wasn't too happy. Ryan Pappenhausen, 123. They've got, I don't know how Melbourne do it, but you've got to have him, Jerome Hughes, and Cameron Munster on the field because their attack can come from anywhere here. I think it has to be Brodie Croft that actually gets dropped. Was he dropped on the weekend, or was he injured?
I don't know why. I don't know if it was to rest him. I don't know if it was to try out this new combination. I've got no idea. I've not heard one way or the other.
Jerome Hughes, his kicking game is, I was surprised at how good it was. I watched a few highlights after the game as well just to sort of go back to that. And his grubbers, his long game, his bombs, everything like that was sort of spot on. So whether that was just a one-off thing that they put him back at half, I'm not too sure. But, I reckon that's probably the combination they can move forward with. Kenny Bromwich had another cracking game, and he's having a huge season. He's just playing awesome on that left-hand side. Addo Carr scored a right, and Cam Smith went solid enough.
Dead set. Did you see that foot race? Sammy's run down Addo Carr.
Oh, Philip Sammy, 2 minutes to go. But I did. I actually did listen to a Carr interview after the game. Mate, it wasn't like he tried to make an excuse, but he did say he was pretty fucked when he made the break. He didn't have much left in the tank, so.
I'm surprised Sammy chased him, given the time of the match it was.
Mate, that's what I think we've always seen with the Gold Coast teams. Look, I've never thought on paper they mushed up talent-wise with other teams, but one thing you always saw was the effort, you know, and that goes to showing that first 40 minutes as well. They were up 8-0 with about 5 minutes to go in the first half, and as much as some decisions went against the Melbourne Storm, you've got the 15th team playing first. You've got the best team in the last 10 years up against the worst team. And the Titans just never stopped trying. So I think the new caretaker coach, came out and said it might have been a lack of talent. It might have been a lack of sort of experience, but it wasn't a lack of effort. So I reckon that's pretty much spot on. If they can find the others and, maybe bring in some, like we spoke about before, back in the day when they had the Luke Baileys and the Mark Minicellos and things like that, they won a few more games through that experience. I don't think blokes like Kevin Proctors and that have just been as effective as those kinds of guys. But, yeah, not too sure where to go with that.
Yeah, good luck everyone playing the Titans. They seem to be the whipping boys at the moment, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But obviously Supercoaches there were pretty happy if you had Pappenhausen. Most people don't, obviously, with the Teddy Turbo combination. I did see one guy actually in the top 100. He traded out Turbo last week for Pappenhausen. So
that's a big call.
I don't know where he pulled that from, but I think the guy jumped up from about 82nd up to 26th based on that 100 points alone. So it was a huge jump for him. So well done to that bloke. But yeah, and then the final game of the week, Manly getting up over the Raiders. And in what was surprisingly a low-scoring game for Manly, or Supercoach-wise anyway. Obviously, Turbo scoring 23 points. Cherry Evans wasn't much better with 30. You'd think those two guys as their playmakers would have gone better. And Jake Trbojevic scored a try in that 69. So what do you make of that, mate?
Yeah, crazy game. I was actually working at this one, so I don't really know exactly what went down. Didn't get to watch all of the game, but I think Canberra had opportunities there to win it, but Eagles have grounded out. They seem to make a habit of beating Canberra. I think and at home, I seem to remember the last few times they've come here, they've knocked Canberra off. So a bit of a rivalry there, I reckon, Bruin. It'll be interesting to see if they clash again in the finals. But yeah, there was a big solid 20,000 crowd out there on Sunday. It was a really nice afternoon for footy, and Croker stepped up for the Raiders. Obviously, I got pretty lucky there.
Let's talk about that, you
Latrell.
blessed fuck.
Oh, stop
it. Latrell going out. You're
year.
forced to play one time. Come on, one time. Bullshit. Mate, you're blessed every week lately. Oh.
Dead set. I think finally it's paid off having the stacked centres. Got to the point where Latrell was ruled out, and the only other player I had to fill the position was Jared Croker, so worked out for me.
That's your kid, mate.
Well, I think it is a child.
I think. There you go. Mate, look, obviously, Josh, hang on, we've lost Brent Hampton. Oh, no, he's back. Are you going to get your kid or what? Or you got the missus on kid duties? Oh, we've gone mute. But yeah, guys, obviously Joshy Papali had a massive game, continued his good form, and Jack Whiten as well. Jack scored 68, so probably a couple of players you wouldn't have, but I do know that a couple of the experts talked about bringing in Papali last week. This week's game, second last round of the year, we've got on the Thursday night the Cowboys up against the Dogs. So, look, obviously up at 1300 Smile Stadium there. It'll be Matt Scott's farewell game. Obviously, he had that stroke during the week, so he's unfortunately not going to be able to finish out the season in his retiring season. But surprisingly, the Doggies $2.20 outsiders. Cowboys beaten Penrith last week, but the Dogs, if they can sort of stifle the Cowboys like they have all the other teams they've played, could be a good one there. My tip would be definitely to go the unders if there's over and unders around about that 35 to 40 points. The Dogs just seem to be going well in defence and they're not much good in attack. So, yeah. The Bunnies are favourites over New Zealand Warriors. That'll be a Friday night first game. And then a big game Friday night with the Broncos and Para. Obviously, Para trying to push their way back into that top four or close to it. Whereas the Broncos in 8th spot at the moment on 23 points, just trying to hold on. Mate, your boys, are you back?
I'm back. Don't know where the bloody mother is.
How are you? $1.28 I don't care that it's the Titans. It doesn't matter. Oh, actually, earlier in the year, I remember watching your guys play the Titans. Didn't you just get beat by 20 or 30?
Yeah, we got touched up by him. It was like, I think, a fourth or fifth game.
I was out
loss in a
playing
row.
golf that day with the kids, some mini golf thing, and I was watching, and the Titans just kept scoring and scoring. I think Ponga still scored about 85 odd. I just don't like the odds in it. I think Newcastle should be favourite because it's in Newcastle, but I'd be going sort of $1.60, $2.40 or something like that rather than those odds. But guess we'll wait and see. Melbourne and Manly, always a cracker. Go for it, mate.
No, like you said, I think Old Boys Day, there's maybe a bit of a reflection on the odds there, but there's no way over $1.20. There's something going on with these odds there, surely. Where's the odds booster?
Only 4 or 5 weeks ago, Melbourne and Manly played out a massive golden point game, 11-10 Manly getting up. It was the week after that Melbourne had an absolute cracking game. Can't remember who it was against, but they came out and flogged someone. I'm just wondering, after last week's performance against the Titans, no doubt at halftime they just would have got one of the sprays of all sprays from Craig Bellamy. Do they come out this week and just blow Manly away? Manly weren't that impressive against Canberra. I just think Melbourne might come out and just give them a good touch-up.
Yeah, it should be. That'll probably be game of the round, I imagine, or maybe your blokes from Canberra, but a couple good games there. But yeah, it should be interesting at Lotto Land as well to see how Manly back it up because they're vying for a top 4 spot now as well.
And the third game on the Saturday, you've got the Roosters up against Penrith. Look, I don't know how I can go back to Captain and Teddy after last week. If I go back to it, he scores 40. I'm sure of it. I'm just, it's just that curse, that you drop them and then you go back to them and it stuffs up. So we'll see how that goes. And then Sunday footy, cracking game with Cronulla up against the Raiders at Shark Park, along with Manly and Melbourne, probably dual games of the round. Really hard to split those two, so both should be absolute crackers. I think it'll really show where Cronulla are up to because Canberra have shown consistently throughout the year, even though they've had a couple of losses of late, that genuine top 4 side. So going into this one, I know we lost the Raiders about sort of 8 weeks ago by 2 points after giving them a big start. We'll just see if we can get them this time at Shark Park. And then to round out the round, you've got St. George up against the West Tigers. So David Nofaluma up for another big one.
Absolutely. Get those Tigers boys in.
No trades, no pods this week. Have you got any trades left, mate?
No, I'm done.
Yeah. No trades, no pods, nothing like that. We're just going to go straight to the BJ League, guys. Whatever. BJ League, Kane Ando, top scoring for the second week in a row.
He's on fire.
Backed up his 1490 odd last week. Look, he said it. I think he started the season. He actually started shocking. He slowly built his team back up. He's found, I guess, that right combination. Checkmate went all right, and mate, you with the bronze medal there for the weekly scores. Overall, Bunnings snags. He's up to 30th overall, Charlie White. He is absolutely going sensational. So come on, Charlie, keep going. Unfortunately, he is still about 500 or 600 points behind first. So really, with 2 weeks to go, no chance of catching that. But if there's any way he could scrape into the top 10, I'm pretty sure 4th through 10th still pick up about $1,000. So hopefully he can do that. Rangers de Janeiro, still a couple hundred points clear of me. I managed to jump back above Stevie Woods with double Denman just over the weekend. So I think I'm about 70 points clear of Stevie. So very, very tight there for the bronze medal position. And
come on, mate, you got to hold on to it. You got to hold on to it.
Determining how much we donate to the Men of League and the Headspace Foundation. So whether it is that 40, whether it's 60, whether someone else comes from the clouds and beats me as well, we'll see how we go. For the head-to-heads, look, you had the top 8. Hang on.
the Cup.
Fuck off, Bogan. You fucking know it, mate. Brendo's got smacked. What is it? Best out of 3 you've lost? Best out of 4? Can't be
he's
best out of 5. There's not enough rounds left.
He's trying to save the clean sweep next week.
Have you got Bogan? Have you got knocked off in your public league yet? You have. Oh wow, that must be the weakest league out of everything. Oh, okay. And then the head-to-heads. I think have we got them here? Here we go. So we've got the minor, the bottom 6th, the bottom 8, mate. We're both still in there. I've got to come up against a very informed Dr. K. Ando. And, mate, I will point out, and Kano was pretty much quick to point it out a couple of weeks ago there, when he came up against the Bunning Snags, who's 30th overall, they only had 3 different players. So he's obviously got a quite a good squad, and that's the difference between finishing 30th and I think Kane's around 5,000-6,000. I'm not too sure where he's up to now, but
he's a bit in front of me, so I think he's just top 5K.
There you go. So it just shows you how hard it's become. Mate, you up against Season 1 veteran Marky with the fucking Cowboys.
Yeah, look at us trying to salvage a bit of dignity in that bottom 8 there. Mate, he's going to come out.
It was a bottom 8. Normally I just turn it off, but we've got to find something to cheer about. So see who plays in the final there next week. Maybe me and you might go head-to-head, buddy, but more so it's probably going to be Marky and Kane.
Probably.
And then the top 4, Hell's Granny's hung in there. He actually got over the top of Stevie Wood's double demon last week, so he's given me a chance for my prediction to come true with him taking it out. He's got to come up against the all-conquering Rangers de Janeiro. And Marty's having an absolute massive head-to-head season. He has gone awesome. He comes up against the Bunning Snags. So Charlie White trying to do the double, the head-to-head and the overall winner. We'll see how that goes over the next 2 weeks. What else we got, Bogan? Social media. Twitter, follow us on BJ on Game Day. Same there on Facebook, BJ on Game Day. And anyone who wants to get in the last 2 weeks, Supercoach group code 701371. Anything to add, Hampton?
No, good luck in your head-to-heads this week. Chat the Snags. Hope you can, maybe lock down a top 20 even, mate. Huge season. Well done there. And, good luck to everyone playing in those head-to-heads.
Yeah, huge effort, obviously, from Snags. Good luck for the last 2 weeks, buddy. Same with Macca and Tyrone's Rat Bags. I saw he's up to about 59th overall from the Supercoach group. So well done to him as well. Mate, hopefully the last 2 weeks you might be able to crack that top 40 or 50. Anyone else, good luck. May the Supercoach gods be nice because we've got no trades left. Bring on 2020. Cheers, guys.